can swear.
Okay, cool.
You are, because we had J Jack already. Like we already had J Jack here, and as you know, he's the swear master of all things.
Okay, as long as I'm not the worst one, that's fine.
No. You are far. And no one has been the worst so far. Maybe Jay, but anyway.
Yeah, we can just bag on Jay.
Yeah, we'll just bag on Jay just a little. Yeah. So, all right. Hey guys, happy Saturday. So I'm here with my friend Val, and I'm excited for this topic. This one's gonna be a really good one. So, but Val, why don't you go ahead and tell us where you're at, what you do, what you specialize in, and we'll go from there.
Okay. I'm Val. My business is Chromatic Canine. I'm based like an hour outside of Boston. We mostly work like in the Boston area. We mostly specialize in like behavior mod, as well as just like lifestyle training for pet owners. Yeah, we work all kinds of like aggression, fear cases, reactivity, over arousal, like the kind of typical trainer stuff.
Cool.
Typical like pet trainer stuff. And then we also run a GRC club called Technicolor GRC, and I compete in GRC with my dogs. So that's kind of the TLDR about what I do.
Cool. And then, yeah, for Facebook, like how we met, it was like she just happened to be in town, and well, maybe not in town, but like in California for like that was like maybe an hour and a half. Like you were down in like San Francisco or San Jose?
San Jose, yeah. Basically, it's not for California.
Yeah, so I basically, here I am. I just messaged her and be like, hey, it's like, can I work with you while you're here? And then it was just like, okay. She was like, cool. She's like, yeah, come in this day. I'm like, cool. I drove me and my Malinois over there because we wanted to work on our fronts because we want to really pass our SR tests, which is coming up next week. So.
Oh wow, that's very.
Yeah, I know.
You feel ready?
Kind of, but no. But that's where.
Yeah, you're never like fully ready.
Right. So, but for anyone that's listening, feel free to leave a comment, say hi, or if you guys got a question for us, feel free to leave it in the comments, and yeah, we'll just start. So Val, I know you I know you chose the biological fulfillment with dogs. So like, out of all the topics, like why that one? Like, what made you choose that?
I think when I look at the like general clientele that I have, as well as just like, I mean, I specialize in pet dogs, so like I think about like the pet dog population in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And when we look at a lot of the issues that we're dealing with, like the leash frustration, the reactivity, the insecurity, the anxiety, like the super pent up dog just like screaming at the window all day. Like when I think of like the one, like people are always looking for like the quick fix, like the fix my dog in one session thing. And if I think about like the true like quick fix, that blanket statement would make 99% of the issues, some of them gone, a lot of them just like way less intense, like it's biological fulfillment.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because I think is people get all different kinds of breeds. You get your German Shepherds, you get your Border Collies, you get GSP, you get all the different spectrums, and then like some people have. I feel like some people get those dogs, but they don't really like know how to like fully satisfy their needs. Like people think like throwing a ball or going for a walk once or twice a day is enough, but there's dogs that you'll meet that's like they don't feel like that's enough, and then that's where it's like it's good for like trainer for you and I to explain it to them that they just need like more than what you're, because people like, especially when they have like previous dogs, they think a walk was enough, but then they think this newer dog that they get was like, it thinks it's the same thing, like that's
Right.
that's fulfillment. And that's where you and I have to come in and be like, no, for this individual dog, this is a lot more. This guy needs a lot more.
Right, like walk around the block for your Malinois not going to cut it. And I think like one of the really cool things that has happened in the industry over the past few years is people have gotten like really into play-based training, and it's like it's not just going around like trainer circles now. Like you'll meet like pet parents, like clients who are like on Instagram, on Facebook, whatever, and they'll like seek you out as a play-based trainer. And like I think that's really cool because like the idea is getting in people's heads, and like it's also then becoming like more like business smart or like marketable for trainers to like educate themselves in that area. So I think that's been a really positive change.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things that like with any kind of like trendy thing is it becomes this like general like, okay, like biological fulfillment, got it, like we're gonna play tug with the dog, which if you have a certain type of dog is awesome. Also like tug being like the stereotypical thing of like what we think in our heads of like, okay, like we thrash around the toy, I let go, and then you punch back into me, and then we thrash around the toy again, and then I out you, I ask for some obedience, and then we do the same thing over and over.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for a certain type of dog, except especially for a dog that's bred to enjoy that, like that's awesome and that's super satisfying. But then if I think about like the random like pit mix from the shelter that maybe has like some hound in them, or like the like nervy Aussie that like doesn't want conflict with their person,
Mm-hmm.
for them, like the owner will try that and go, okay, my dog doesn't like that, so like we're not going to play, or like we're not going to give any kind of drive fulfillment. And I think like a really interesting thing for me has been kind of like solving the puzzle of like what each dog finds fulfilling and likes. Like one of the dogs I have worked with for a while now, like he started out like very human aggressive, like tries to bite people on sight, like pretty bad. And part of it is like for sure a fear response because he has some trauma. Part of it is like the dog just likes agitating at people and like making them twitch. Like he just finds it fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just an anxiety response. And so for that dog, part of what we did was we put him on a slap mill, and when he's on the mill, he can blow up at people, he can agitate at people, he can run at them and rage at them, and they'll run away from him. And then when he's off the mill, you don't get to be a dick to people anymore. So
Mm-hmm.
like if all we had done with that dog is just tug with handler and just like counter conditioning and like all of the other stuff you generally did in an aggression case, but he didn't get that outlet, there would constantly be this thing that like he feels in his genetics that like he needs to, like wants to do, but
Mm-hmm.
can't. And we would just have to constantly tell him not to, versus like being like, cool, like on the mill where there is no chance of you making contact with any of these people, be as psycho as you want to be. And then when you're off, like it's off the table.
Mm-hmm.
So he's actually like made a lot of progress with that because we've given him that. So I'm just giving that like as an example of like different things are fulfilling to different dogs, and it's not necessarily like the Instagram image of like this is what your dog should find fun. It's about like figuring out how can we like safely and healthily give a dog like the thing that they want.
Mm-hmm. I think that thing is a really good point because just because it's like it's very hard, like for you and I to figure it out, it's kind of like a little bit easier versus like the pet owner, where it's
Sure.
like
Yes.
like for the pet owner, it's like if they say, oh yeah, my dog likes to yell at you, just let them do it, and then like it just that's a whole liability thing that's like we
Yes.
hear about it. But like to be able to like allow the dog in a safe context, like that's why I really enjoy like learning from, like that's why like J Jack, like I really enjoy watching, and like because it's always thinking outside, he's always thinking outside the box with some
Yes.
context, but then like just being able to like see like you're on a slap mill, and then run it out and lose your shit there, but like teach them that context is like you're allowed to express it, but then outside of that it's like, okay, cool, like we teach the clarity where like you don't do
Yes.
that, but you also allow the dog to express it, so get it out of his system, so then it's not building up, and I think being able to like every dog's like an individual, how you said. So it's like the trick is just trying to figure out like what works with this dog may not work for the other, but then just trying to see where also um, being allowed to let the dog have his fun and express some of it. I think is important, but I think it's also a brain. It's also like a brain
Yes.
puzzle for us.
I think like one of the really cool things I've learned from Jay is the idea of window. So like the idea of like saying like, okay, this is your opportunity to behave in such a way and now it's done.
Yep.
Um, because without that, like, yeah, like the idea of letting a dog like that just like scream it out at people and lunge at people, like terrible idea. If there's no control in that and you're just like, yeah, dude, like just scream, like go ahead. Like, yeah, that's a liability. Like that's fucking dangerous. Uh,
Yeah, especially if you have no control, if you don't have like you can't teach the dog to behave like at liberty or teach the dog,
mhm.
enough like a stop like enough cue, then that's bad because you might have the chance of the dog being like that the whole time. So
Yes. I think like that's one of the like big barriers for a lot of people to let their dogs be in that like high state of arousal and be in drive and
hmm
be like fully themselves is like once they get there, the brakes come off and like they have no way to like communicate with the dog, no way to control the dog can't control themselves. And so then they just kind of like manage and avoid because they're worried that if it happens, like that dog, if there's no control in that dog is dangerous.
hmm
If there's control, then he's happy and safe. But if there's no control, then dangerous. And I think like that's kind of been the like I feel like I've seen like so many like trends go up and down in pet dog training.
hmm
And I feel like now it's kind of the play stuff. Before that was like, we're gonna teach the dog to be calm, which like, yes, I'm gonna do that too because I need the dog to calm down after he screamed at people or like whatever their thing is. Um, but I think before it was almost like this like avoidance thing. Like I know for me for sure it was a thing. Like my all of my dogs were reactive at one point and like it's that like, oh god, like we gotta keep them on their threshold. Like we can't let them like see the thing. We can't let them get excited. We can't let them like get too amped because once they do, like they lose their shit and like everything's done.
hmm
Um and I think like figuring out ways to work in arousal and also to like have control over like how to switch on and off arousal like opens up a whole new world to a lot of people with their dogs because it's finally safe to let them do what they need to do.
hmm Yeah, I mean that's the thing where like because I hear a lot. I listen from different dog trainers pages and Instagrams and all that, and they're always like, like there's like a couple of like super extreme ones where they're like, oh, you shouldn't play with your dog. You don't want them to like fight with you, or like you don't want to teach them like to do all. You don't want him to give this opportunity because you're promoting all these different things like prey drive, aggression, and all that.
Right.
And it's like I think the oldest thing I've heard was like, don't play with your dog. Don't play tug with your dog because it just increases aggression. Whereas it's just like it's very just like okay, it depends. Like what's going on and like it's like when you play tug, is there actual like rules in the game, or if there or
Mhm.
are you just letting the dog just do whatever it wants and just letting him go like from 1 to 10 and just letting him just go nuts, but I think that's the thing where like there's some trainers that don't know how to teach kind of like the
Mhm.
liberty and the enough and like like switching windows. because
Mhm.
I first because at first I didn't understand it at first until I understanding it from Jay and learning that the windows of opportunity, like work window, play window, then liberty, then it just made it so much more sense. And I was like, oh, okay, this is really cool. Like I really want to start promoting this for my clients and show other trainers this. It's a real game changer.
Yeah, I think it's like I don't know if this is like a weird analogy, but it's like in like high school you have like abstinence only education where
hmm
they're like, okay, kids, be abstinent, and like none of the kids are abstinent, and then like they just don't know what to do with themselves, and like it's just like a free for all, but it's like hush hush and nobody knows. Versus like when you go, okay, when you inevitably get into these situations that I know you're gonna get into because you're 16 years old, or because you're a 3-year-old Malinois, or like whatever type of dog, Like here are the tools to deal with the situation productively versus
Mhm.
hoping it doesn't happen and then when it inevitably does, like not knowing what to do about it.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel yeah, because I feel like with like most pet parents, like when they like when they say, "Oh yeah, my dog likes tug," I'm like, "Okay, show me how you play tug," and
Mhm.
it's just them swinging their arms, or it's just like they're like most minimal effort. They're just holding the toy, and then the dog is just like playing. Then I'm just like, they're like, okay, we can change how you act with this toy, or we can like,
Yes, like
we
I'm really glad you're playing with your dog. Like you're already like one step ahead of the game, but like let's make it something that's gonna like help you get to your goals versus just like a random activity that you're doing.
yeah, especially with like, and I forgot the whole sequence that you might be able to help fill in the holes, but like I know Jade talks about like the different types of things like stalking,
Yep.
celebrating, eating or dissecting, and then like running around with it, running around with it. So like I think just being able, like some dogs have more, um, like some dogs enjoy the stalking more
Yep.
than the tugging, than the fighting. Some dogs enjoy like ripping the stuffing out of the toy, then maybe this. So it's like, just being able to like understand, and maybe Val, you can explain like all the different types that are out there, but like figuring out like what your dog prefers in that
Yeah.
in those things too is important.
So I think you're talking about Jay's like aspects of play, which derive from the predatory sequence.
Hmm. Hmm.
He has the 6 aspects of play. I hope I don't butcher this. Shit. Okay. So, stalk, chase, fight,
I think eat and
fight,
celebrate.
celebrate, consume, and there's also does he call it hunting? I don't know if he calls it hunting. Scenting? I don't know. That's I think before
Oh,
stalk. Do you know what I'm talking about?
kind of. Oh shit, he's here. He's
Oh, shit, he's
watching.
watching. Oh no. Sorry, Jay.
What's up, Jay? We failed you as students.
So sorry. But yeah, no, I mean, I think the way Jay like dissects play and what dogs like about play is really helpful because like yes, it's gonna help you play tug better, but it's also gonna help you with other things. So like for example, like my lab, like he doesn't really want to fight, like he wants to celebrate. He wants to
Hmm.
celebrate and then he wants to consume.
Hmm.
And like for him, like there is nothing better in life than to be released to wreak havoc and just
Fuck
oh,
off, no fail. She's the
okay.
shit.
Okay. Yeah, no failing here. Woohoo. Anyways, so yeah, so like my lab, like there's no bigger reward for him than for me to release him to a room full of people to run around, harass people, jump on them, steal shit from them, just like be fucking wild. Like he wants to celebrate and then he wants to find something and eat it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um and like again, this is like the other dog is dangerous, like the male dog. He would
Hmm.
be dangerous if you don't have control because he's gonna bite you. But like my like 65-pound dog that just wants to throw his body around means so well, also fucking dangerous if you have no control. Because if that is a room full of 2-year-olds and grandmas, that's real bad.
Oh god,
Um,
no.
And even without that, like, even if it's not dangerous, it's fucking annoying, like, if you have no
Hmm.
control, right? Like, if you're in a room and you have this dog that just wants to, like, muzzle punch everybody out of joy and, like,
Hmm.
steal their treat pouch and play tug with their coat, like, big
Hmm.
problem. Um, but by teaching him, like, right now you're allowed, right now you're not allowed. Even when you're allowed, sometimes I'm gonna interrupt you. So like I can out him off of a person, out of like jumping on a person, then send him back, or like out him, then like ask for a position, send him back. So like if you have all of that, then all of a sudden this thing that like your average pet owner would come to you as a trainer and be like, my dog is a menace, this is terrible, becomes this like cool reward event that you can give your dog and just like this fun party.
Mm-hmm.
And it also kind of allows you to have a built-in reinforcer wherever you go. So like I don't need food to ask this dog for obedience if I have willing victims near me. And to him, anyone is a potential victim because he loves everybody because he's a big dumb lab.
Mm-hmm.
So like I know you want to go like harass this person, but like why don't you give me a down and a middle, and then like we're going to loosely walk and you're going to greet this person nicely, and then you're going to hang out at Liberty for a little bit and hold your shit together. And the whole time he's like, okay, like I'll do it. It's going to happen. It's about to happen. If I just hold my shit together, she's going to send me. And I don't have to have any food on me because that's way better than food. Like harassing is way better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's the thing too, where like, I mean, you're gonna run into dogs that's like, that aren't as food motivated, or you're gonna get dogs that are like way more of a prey drive than actual food, or like they actually prefer the toy versus the food. And like if we compare like a lab that likes to consume, or that's just like it's like the celebratory kind of dog, that's like a lot of people's cup of tea, where they're like, okay, cool. But then if you try to do that same thing, where we're gonna do a lot of celebrating with like a Malinois, or I don't know,
someone's gonna get bit.
Yeah, this game bred pit bull that you decide to get from like via Lobos Rescue, or like or like or best friends, or the Michael Vick case. You get one of their dogs, and you're like, we're gonna try and celebrate. We're gonna celebrate in front of all these people and dogs, and you're like, oh, this was a bad idea.
I'm gonna get myself canceled today because I'm like letting dogs agitate at people, letting my dog harass people. My next thing that's gonna get me canceled. Speaking of those dogs with like really high prey drive, one of the other things that people are always fighting their dogs about is, like you said, like prey drive.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're walking on a leash and the dog's lunging at squirrels, or they're trying to get the dog off leash reliable, but there's a squirrel and they've left them, and it's all terrible now.
Mm-hmm.
And like whenever I have that situation where it's the dog really wants to do something, it's really interfering with the owner's life, but the thing is not inherently dangerous, like there's a way to give it to them that's safe.
Mm-hmm.
I would way rather do that and then teach control within that, like as part of that game. So like one of the things I did with my dogs is my friend has like a hunting line GSP. And so she was going to a trainer to do upland. And the way that they start the dogs is basically like the dog is like on the 4x4 in a crate. They set out a bunch of quail in the brush, and then they let the dog go and let them learn how to like seek the birds out. Like teach them that if they're too fast pouncing on them, the bird's going to fly. So it's better if you freeze and you point, and then you slowly creep up and flush the bird. So like they learn all these things from just being let loose in a field.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend was like, hey, like my friend Val has a lab and an Aussie. Can she bring her dogs? Because this seems like they would have a lot of fun. And her trainer was like, yeah, why the hell not? So we started like joining her in her training, and basically my dogs just got to hunt quail, which you can imagine for dogs with a lot of prey drive was a ton of fun. But aside from the fact that it was really fun and also a free, prey model raw meal for them,
Mm-hmm.
there's so much you can teach in that, and so much I learned there from the hunting trainer about cooperation in the hunt, because like like the classic pet owner of like the dog's trying so hard to get to the prey and they're just trying to stop them, and you can totally like twist it on its head. Instead of, okay, the dog won't recall because there's prey, where you hid the quail, so you can go over next to the quail, recall the dog, and then send them to the quail, and they're like, holy shit, like you're so smart. When you call me over here, there's a whole ass bird for me. And so instead of your recall being the thing that's like, dude, like why the fuck are you calling me away from this bird, your recall becomes the thing that helps them find the bird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then that's a really good point. Because I kind of do that with like my dogs, where like I have like 2 pity mixes, and they see birds, they see it, they're like, oh, I want to go get it, and then like we're out on the beach and like sometimes they'll and I'll have them just stay with me, be like, don't lose your shit,
Yep.
good dog. And then it's like, when you create that window, like if I say get it, they're like, oh, it's our time. And
Yeah. You're like, we
whoo.
will get it.
Yeah. And especially like if you do it like how you're talking about, where it's like you come to me, that gets you access to this window, like this thing, that makes it so much more motivating that the dog's like, okay, you're not going to take the fun away. You're actually going to let me go if I actually go with, right? And I think just being able to teach owners like that logic instead of just like, dog, come back, especially when like I feel like when people are tugging at the leash or they're yanking cranking with the collar, like if it's not working for them, the dog is like, it's like just adding more resilience to the behavior. It's just making the behavior stronger. It just being able to dissect little details like that, that's a big thing. So
Yes, and like there's like you were saying, like for your pets, that's probably like so much more fun than like a formal training session. Versus like my Aussie, if I'm like, okay, here's a puzzle, we're gonna figure out how to do this like new trick. She's like, oh my god, this is incredible. What do you want me to do? Do you want me to move my foot this way? Do you want me to move my head this way? For your pit mixes, they're probably like, holy shit, dad, like you're incredible. You're letting us go kill some shit. So just like I don't know, like honoring who that dog is and like giving that to them and not trying to make them something that they're not, but also figuring out a way to use who they are to like live well together. Because yeah, I mean my dogs are like, if left to their own devices, they would be fucking menaces. Like my lab especially, we always shit on him. I love him so much, but he's a shit. Like he wants to like jump on people. He wants to go and like harass dogs. Like he wants to eat everything. Like the dog's a menace. Like if left to his own devices, he would be horrible. So sorry. He's laying here next to me, poor guy. So like if he didn't have any of that, and if like I didn't have a way to like help him figure out how like doing the things that I need him to do to be safe and like reasonably polite in my life, like we would be struggling against each other like all the time, because it's like, stop pulling me on leash to go see things, stop picking things up, like stop doing that. And it's like yes, he does need to stop doing those things. Like he needs to walk nicely on a leash sometimes. He needs to not eat shit off the floor because that's disgusting. He needs to not go and harass that dog that wants to like kill him if he does that. But all of that is taught through the things that he enjoys. So like, yeah, we're going to go and like play with dogs, and then I'm going to teach you how to like modulate your arousal when you're around dogs so that you can be friends with more dogs, because that's what you want to do because you're a hypersocial lab. Like I'm not going to stop you from socializing. I'm going to teach you how to socialize better so that you get more opportunities to do that. And like I'm not going to stop you from wanting to be friends with people. I'm not going to like try to force you to view me as the center of your universe, because like you're not a herder, you're a lab. Like you want to have a social life, you want to have friends. But I'm going to teach you how to like behave appropriately around different types of people and teach you social skills so that you can be around more people, because that's what you want. So I forget where I started my thought, but just like yeah, my thought like started and then it just kind of got
that's
lost.
okay. It's okay. We can go. I'll talk a little bit. I'm sure it'll catch you, and then
thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, because I mean that's the thing where like you get all these people that sometimes they get a dog from like Craigslist, or they get a dog because they like the look and things like that. And then sometimes I ask him, I'm like, hey, do you know what a border collie does? Or hey, do you know what like you got this exotic hound or you got this exotic hunting dog? Do you know what this actually does? Like out on his own, like when you like what it was bred for? They're like, no. And I'm like, I show a video. This is what your dog does. and then I'm like, wait a minute. Like, I think that's the thing where like most pet dogs is like they go out, they come out like when they live with owners, and sometimes they feel like no purpose, like empty. It's like I tell people, it's like this analogy all the time where like if you have this Beijing Olympic athlete in your house, but then you don't allow him to go and compete or actually do what he was supposed to be doing, then that just makes him feel like because especially when you don't fulfill needs or when you don't have like a purpose, you start to develop issues or you start to have like, you know, conflict inside you kind of thing where it's like the dog has to find his own purpose and fun. And usually like after that, that's when the owners are like, he's starting to dig, he's starting to bark at the house, bark at people at the house, he's doing this. And I'm like, yep, you guys, he found the fun, he found his own purpose and fun, and now he's just capitalizing on it, you know.
Yep.
Especially it's like, especially it's so important that we explain that to them where it's like, hey, your dog needs more than just a walk, your dog needs a little bit more of an itinerary, or like this is like, okay, this is how we're going to help him fulfill his needs. Like one example that kind of came up today was I was with a client and they have like this mix, like shepherd husky mix, right? And then there is been a big nervous wreck since like 8 weeks old. Will want to play with the husband, like they play chase each other, right? Like,
Yep.
so when the husband runs away, the dog chase, he's like, this is fun. But when the husband chases, like they switch roles, like go on the offense, then he's like, oh hell no, and pees on the floor. And then I'm like, and I have to explain, okay, that's where we have to explain where I think switching the roles, like take it to a lower level if you were to like switch the offense or like, you know, go a little back and forth instead of like go from one extreme to another.
Yep.
And it just explaining it's like a whole like I can write a whole novel just like talking about that, you know. So let me just read some of the comments here. So stroke the intrinsic desire with the dog in a safe but fulfilling manner. Love it. Becoming a team and working together. Glad you're feeling better from whatever you caught from the Costa Rica bill. Denise, thank you. All right, we got one question here, Suzanne. How do you find the real purpose of the dog? Ooh.
That's a very philosophical question.
I was like,
You go real deep with this one.
I was like, what? I was like, how do you answer this? It's like there's 100 ways to answer this.
So I mean, realistically, like I think, like going back to like Jay's stuff, like he breaks things down in a really like, I don't want to say simplified because what he does is not simple at all, but like he like conceptualizes things really well in like a really like concrete way. So like look at the aspects of play, like figure out what your dog likes from there. Then you can go into like, does your dog like to compete with you or do they like to work cooperatively with you? Because like my Aussie, if we cooperate too much, she thinks that's bullshit. Like she wants to fight me. Like she wants me to tell her that like she sucks, and then she wants to go, no, you suck and I'm better than you. And then I go, oh my God, you're so right. And then she feels so good about herself. Versus like my lab, if I talk to him in that way, he'd be like, why do you hate me? Why don't you love me? So like figuring that out, like figuring out what kind of interaction your dog likes as far as like, are you on the same team? Are you on opposing teams? I mean, honestly, like doing a genetic test and figuring out like what breeds your dog is and what's their original purpose is helpful. But just looking at that individual dog and looking at the things they already do, because like dogs give us clues into what they like even if you look at the way they interact with like prey animals. Like I work with a husky who like, yeah, she loves to chase, but she also loves to just like stalk the squirrels, stalk like bunnies, like stalk all kinds of shit. And if I'm gonna think about translating that into training, if I'm gonna personal play with her, I'm gonna do a lot of stalking. If I'm gonna food chase with her, we're gonna do a lot of little pauses and quick movements, and you know what I mean? Like just breaking down like what it is about the things they already do that they like, and then seeing how you can put that into different types of games and activities. And I mean, it can even go deeper than that. Like if you I'm gonna pick on my dogs just because they're like here and it's, you know, out of sight, out of mind, like no object permanence. I'm just looking at them, so I'm gonna talk shit about them. So like even if you look at like, does your dog like to always succeed or succeed most of the time? Do they like a challenge? Because like different dogs have different levels of that. Like Some dogs, if you make them fail too many times, they crumble. Some dogs, if things are too easy, they find that super fucking boring and they disengage from you. So just, I guess, like analyzing the way that your dog moves through the world and the things that bring them joy, and then figuring out how can I take all of those little things and put them together into what I do with them.
Mm-hmm. I think the other thing too is like, you know, I'll tell people this all the time is like just watch your dog, like just
Yep.
like observe your dog and like what like kind of how you said like processes the world, and like, you know, just watch what the dog does when like a bottle cap rolls on the floor. Does he chase it, or does he turn his head like tilt like this way, or does he try to eat it? Just, you know, it's like there's like different ways your dog can process things, and also too where like with breed, like genetics is strong. Like genetics is a big component where it's like if I know if it's like a GSP or if it's like the husky that likes to stalk, like watching the action, but considering the breed, is like, okay, I have an idea. There's a hit. I have a hint. It's like me having the breed doesn't mean like it'll explain everything, but for certain individual dogs, but it's like, okay, it gives me like an idea or it gives me like a hint. Okay, I can try. Maybe he likes to chase, or maybe he likes to, you know, like personal play or kind of thing. It depends, but it's just being able to like be good at like watching how your dog processes things, and also like what are his habits, and, you know, even just like watching how they might play with your other personal dog, or if they play with like if they play with a stuffed dog. Okay, not stuffed dog, stuffed toy. You know what I'm saying? Just
I know what you mean.
people are gonna be like, Kevin's really concerning us right now. Like we're just talking about like letting dogs murder
You're
little
totally
animals and
fine.
stuff.
I'm the one getting canceled anyway, so in
This
the
will be the
shadows of
first.
getting canceled, anything you say is fine.
It'll be the first and the last time you see Val like be in a podcast or in a video
Yeah,
live stream because of all what she said.
yeah, it
But
was nice seeing you guys. Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna go like really deep with it, I think like you can also kind of flip it on the other side of like who are you? How do you like to interact with dogs? Like what's your style?
mhm.
Like I think I'm gonna pick on Instagram trainers because everybody fucking does it. We're just gonna be trendy like everybody else.
Let's go for it.
So like if you look at like a lot of the people on Instagram just going like super nice boy, super, and you're like, bro, like you're from Indiana, you're not from Germany. Like why? Um, and just like the same way that people will try to like make a dog fit into a mold, like it's like they'll do the same thing with themselves and their training style. And I
Mhm.
think it's because they see like these like really amazing trainers, and then instead of going, okay, like what's the concept behind what this person is doing? Like if we look at the super successful like bite sport person going super in Germany, right? Like the concept of what they're doing is they're cheerleading their dog. They're telling their dog very genuinely how incredible they are and how proud they are of them. And that is
Mhm.
super fucking effective. But you
Mhm.
don't have to sound like you have a European accent to do that. You can
Mhm.
say that in your own voice and your dog will probably like appreciate that a lot. Like I think especially when I coach play with people, being genuine is such a big thing
Mhm.
that I think gets missed sometimes. Like play, but honestly, just like training and praise and just living with your dog in general, just like yeah, I guess just like being genuine and just expressing the correct emotions that are appropriate for the situation in a way that's productive.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, don't be like don't fake it. Like it's kind of like I kind of do it the same thing where it was like Jay when we talked last time. It was like I mentioned something how I like to like grunt or like do some stuff when I play with the dog, and then literally like Jay said, "So you made porn noises," and I was like, and I was like, "Oh no!" It's like, "Damn, don't be like that, Jay." You know, but it was like when I do it now, it's like more legit. Like sometimes I'll do the same thing with clients when they
Mhm.
play, and I'm like, it's this is gonna sound bad, but this is my only analogy for that kind of thing where like you're like faking the sound or you're doing minimal effort.
Mhm.
It's literally like if you're having some fun in bed with you significant other where
Okay,
you're
it's okay. We're
like if you're having sex with your partner or something like
uh
that and the other partner's like just faking like
Yep.
the moaning and just all that and then it's just like there's minimal effort then it's like it's not fun for both partners, you know.
Right. Like it's better if that person if that is a quiet person who does not naturally make noise. It's better if they show on their face that they're having a good time but they shut the fuck up instead of them starting to try to make like porn noises that like they don't actually mean. Then it
Hmm.
just gets fucking weird for everybody. And like
Yeah.
dogs are fucking smart. Like they can tell.
Hmm.
Like if I'm in a shitty mood and I'm like, "Oh my god, you're such a good boy. You're doing a great job." My dog's like, "This is bullshit. Like you don't mean this." And he'll just be like, "Fuck you, lady. Like I'll do it, but I'll look sad about it." And then I have to be like, "Oh, I'm saying like all the words, but like I look like an asshole in my face. Like I need to fix my face."
Hmm. Yeah,
Uh,
and I mean too, like sometimes they smell how you feel with your with the pheromones sometimes, or
yep.
they just the dogs are just very good about reading you because they live with you 24/7 and they know your habits.
Yeah, and I think sometimes there's this advice of like you shouldn't show emotion in your dog training or to your dog. And I think that comes from people who get really frustrated and then take it out on their dog, which like I'm with you, like don't vent frustration into your dog, don't beat the shit out of your dog, you know. I'm on board with that. Um but I think then people have this idea that they can like hide how they feel from the dog, which like you said, like they can smell you. They can smell what's that like saying that people say they can smell cocaine, like a tiny drop of cocaine from like a mile away. Like they
Hmm.
can fucking tell if you're anxious or if you're like angry or if you're sad, like or if you're happy.
Yeah,
Can
yeah.
you can't hide it. So like control your emotions, like don't be a dick, don't like vent your shitty emotions into your dog, but also don't assume that because you're using a clicker and you're not talking too much to your dog and you're being really clinical and perfect with your training that they somehow don't know because they know.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean that's the thing too, where it's like if anything, it's like it's a self-suppressing yourself, and then like you're not only you're trying to suppress your dog, you're trying to suppress
Yeah.
yourself, and then it's like dogs are very in tune. I mean, there's some dogs that don't give a shit about how you feel, and they rather be over there chasing the squirrel or running off
Sure.
in the distance in the sunset, and then you could be crying over there. But like most dogs are like, what's wrong? It's like, oh, what's upset? And especially when they have that movie theater moment, that's like they cry. You have their dog put their head on your lap, or the dog just,
Yeah.
or the dog just, like does like a parkour somersault
Mhm.
on your back. Like, what's wrong with you, boyish? And you're like, I'm gonna kill you. Motherfucker, I'm gonna kill you right now.
Yep. I mean,
Um,
even the dog that's like, "Oh, you're crying, you're having a hard time. I need to get the fuck away from you. Like this is stressing me out."
yeah. Um, that's why dogs are just we sometimes we don't deserve dogs. Sometimes it's like they're just they can tell how we are, and sometimes my dogs know to just give me space because even for me it's like I mean we sometimes it's like we have a hard time regulating our
Yeah.
emotions, or we have certain needs, and some it's like I'll tell people, hey, your dog is this way, how do you feel if that was you in this position? They're like, okay, that makes more sense. I'm like,
Yeah.
right. um
Like if you can't control your emotions, put the dog away.
mhm.
Like
Yeah.
get some space from the dog. Like don't put it in the dog.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you have a bad day, like just decompress, take care of yourself first, and then come back and work with your dog later, or just have a day off, And I just tell people that it's like if you have a shitty day, just do something,
Yeah.
just go up, just take a break from your dog, or go do something fun with the dog. No training involved,
Yeah, do
Just
something fun. Don't train your dog. Just like chill. Like
yeah,
it's better than if you try to pretend like it's not happening and then you train your dog and you like lose your shit at your dog. Then you're gonna be fixing that.
hmm
versus
Yeah.
just a rest day.
Yeah. So with all that, right? Like uh like with biological fulfillment, it's like, you know, athlete, like right now for you, like, you know, there's
Mhm,
tug, there might be like chase, like cheat chase kind of thing.
mhm.
Like I mean, I feel like it could be different things. It could be like from
Yes.
sheep herding. It could be like your like gun dog, like your hunting training. You know, like for
I
you,
mean,
like yeah.
for like my tiny dog that's like mostly a mix of like companion breeds, like sitting in my lap is very biologically fulfilling for her. For
Mm-hmm.
my other dogs, if we just did that, they would be psychotic. But like for
Mm-hmm.
her, like she needs to have that in a day to feel whole, to feel like she's like fulfilled her purpose of being a lap warmer. And like
Mm-hmm.
that's who she is. And like I think it's beyond just like we're gonna play tug with the dog, we're gonna like go hunting with the dog, whatever. It's like what is the actual thing that brings your dog joy? What makes them feel whole? Like for that dog, and like thinking kind of I guess like outside the box.
Yeah, and then like how do I provide that for my dog? Like, you know, like how do I give my that's the other question where I'm probably thinking from like a client perspective, like
Mhm.
how do I implement that, or how do I try
Yeah.
to put that in my uh ba- everyday life kind of thing, where, you know, especially like there's like times where like I had one client with a young Roddy,
Mhm.
but he was like old, and he was like on the walker, and he was like talking about like, oh, the dog keeps trying to take the ball off the walker, or
Shocking.
he wants he's mouthy, and he like left all these like marks and
Mhm.
scratches and scars because he's got paper skin. And then I am playing with him, and I'm just like, oh, hi buddy, and then we're like playing a little bit of tug, and then I'm just like, it's like this dog really likes tug, he likes personal
Mhm.
play, and then he's just like, then I was like, and then the dad, the son at the time, who was like an adult, he was like, yeah, I don't think my dad can do all that. But I was like, no, but you do have this very strong beam here that I could put a bungee toy, and like we can, like, have you heard of a spring pole? And
Yep.
it was just like, and I did it, and I'm like here, and I'm like, look at him go, like that's a good boy.
Yep.
So just being creative too, I think is really important.
Yes, 100%. And like I'm so glad you mentioned personal play because I feel like that kind of gets left out a lot of the time. Like it's like lesser than toy play, but like
Hmm.
some dogs that's like their jam, that's their thing.
Hmm.
And you can apply all of the same concepts. Like you can put a window on it, you can put an interruption on it, you can put obedience in there, you can have like the different aspects of play in there. So like one dog I trained was like not was, she's still alive. Hopefully for a lot longer. But she's just very, very, very fearful dog. Probably the worst fear case I've had to date. And so when we first started working together, I was just like taking her out on hikes. And as you can imagine, she thought that I was going to kill her. My very kind husband was driving me to work at the time because I didn't have a driver's license. So he was hiking with us, and she thought he was going to kill her. And obviously, she wasn't taking food,
Hmm.
and definitely had no interest in playing tug with me. And eventually, she started taking a little bit of chicken from me. But one of the things that really opened her up is like one of the things she really, really enjoyed is if she and I would stay behind and I would just hold her on a short leash. My husband would go out of sight and then I would release her to go chase him.
Hmm.
And then when she got to him, it would be a big party and then he would run away again. And that like really opened her up and she found that so fun. And we started seeing her actual personality that wasn't just like having a panic attack at all times.
Hmm.
And like over time, like that game also turned into recall. So like you're chasing him and then come back to me and I'm gonna hold you back and we're gonna wait for a little bit and then as your reward you're gonna get to go back to him. And so she opened up a ton. She also learned that like obedience is really fun because a lot of her previous training was more just like, you fucking have to. And like, obviously with a dog like that, if you tell them you fucking have to, they'll do it, but they're gonna look like shit. And that's only gonna work as long as your you fucking have to is worse than their fear of the environment, which for her is like pretty bad. So I think especially with dogs like that, like really scared dogs, personal play can really help with those types of situations.
Okay, so let's see. We got Suzanne here. I had a dog who wanted personal play. Took me a while to get it, and then my question is, how do I implement it?
So the first thing I think about if I'm thinking about a game, right, is like how do you win? Like how do you score? So like in that game, like the game they were playing was tag, and like you were saying, like with your husky client, your shepherd husky client, like if he was chasing her for too long, that would not have ended well. She would not have enjoyed that. So like mostly we were letting her be on offense, him on defense. Sometimes they'd switch roles, but only for a little bit. So first is like, how do they score? She scores by catching up to him. Then we go, okay, like what are the rules of the game? So like one of the rules is obviously you have to stay in the game. So that goes into like, first of all, that goes into strategies of how to achieve your goal, like how to score. So like one of the things that people will do both with like toy play and personal play is like they're playing this chase game, for example, and then the dog sees something, gets a little distracted, and they go, come back, buddy, I'm over here, let's play, instead of going, okay, got it, goal of the game, get away from the dog. Like I score if I get away from her, she scores if she gets me. She got distracted, so I can fucking get away. And then just taking off, and then her going, oh shit, like I shouldn't get distracted because if I do, they run away and I lose the game. So making it kind of like more intentional like that versus just a fun activity of like we're bouncing around, which is totally fine. Love bouncing around with my dogs, but like you're gonna reach a different level of commitment if they understand there's a way to win or lose versus if it's just a funsies like party thing. Then the next thing I would do is I would teach windows. So I would teach like there's a start queue and there's an end queue. So the way I would teach it with personal play, pretty simple, just modeling. So like whatever your play queue is, mine is ready. So say that and then start playing. And then whatever your end of play queue is, mine is enough. Say it and stop playing. If you need to use the leash or like body language or whatever to like implement being like, no, it's like actually done. If your dog is super crazy, like going after you. Once I have that, I would teach an interruption, and that again would be just modeling. So like you play, you say your interruption word, mine is out, freeze. Like literally show them I am taking a break, I am interrupting this, I am stop. The second they do, bring them back into the game. So like you would teach it the exact same way you would teach tug. And then once you have all of that, then you just teach obedience and you put it in the middle of that. I think it's easier to teach obedience with food initially for the average person. Like I think luring is probably the easiest way to teach obedience. You could do other things, like you could teach it using the game, which I would depending on a bunch of factors. But I think the easiest thing for the average person is teach it with food and then just toss it in the game.
Yeah, so I mean for like to implement it, I would say, just like, yeah, definitely make sure we go over like, the rules of the game, and then like opening, like conditioning like the windows where it's like ready, then play, and then enough. And like if your dog doesn't know what enough means, then you might maybe just let them drag like a long line so you can step on it if they have a hard time settling, but I think just being able to like put into practice, I would say maybe a little bit every day except your shitty days, I think is good. Because that's the thing where it's like for a normal pet owner, it's hard at first unless you're going with like a play trainer like me and you. So like if you're not sure how to do it entirely, if that's where you can call you and I, or somebody near your area that specializes in that to help out. because it's hard, and you don't, and sometimes you're gonna mess up, which is okay, but it's just a lot easier if you just hire one of us to go and help you with your game. So
I think also like one of the pieces of advice that really helped me in general is just like the idea of your words as being like cues that predict picture changes.
yeah.
Um so like in general in training, like if I am giving a cue and I have a picture in my head of what I want it to look like, my first thought isn't how do I make my dog do that? My first thought is how do I behave in such a way that it creates that? So like for example, if I know that me taking off running is going to get my dog to chase me, and what I want is for my ready cue to predict play, then all that I have to do is I say the cue, then I do the thing that makes the play happen, and then you do that enough times, you say ready, they're like, holy shit, you're about to take off.
Hmm.
Same thing, like if I want enough to predict my dog disengaging from me and being chill, then I think about, okay, like what are the things that I do that make my dog disengage from me and be chill? It's probably me disengaging from them and being chill.
Hmm.
Unless we're talking about my lab who's annoying and then he'll just pursue me. But let's ignore that side note. But yeah, so like saying the cue and then, be the change you want to see in the world, right? Like,
Hmm.
so I think that's kind of like a generalized, how do you teach different windows? How do you teach different cues? Just like, what is it that you do that causes that to happen? And then just make the sound that you want to predict that picture before you do the thing.
Hmm. Very, very good point. Definitely something that's like you don't hear from a lot of trainers. I think it's like it's good to hear. That's why it's like I like recording stuff like this, so that people can actually listen to it and be like, oh, this is actually a good idea. Because whenever I hear like people talking about like Jake just talking about something outside the box, it's like every time you go to a workshop, you think some people are like, oh yeah, I know it. I've been to it several times, but every time I go, Jay will always have something that he says out of his mouth that my brain goes like, ha, I didn't think about that. I did not think about that. And my brain just explodes like I'm mind blown.
He has a way of like thinking about things, saying things, and then also like knowing his audience and like figuring out how to say it in such a way that the exact person he's talking to like understands what he's trying to say. That I think is very unique.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I think for sure, like one of the biggest lessons in my career has been not just being like, okay, cool, like I can train the dog, like I know the concept, but then like, how do I convey this in such a way that the person I'm talking to understands it, but also is like inspired and motivated by it? Because I think that's one of the things that Jay does really well. Like, he doesn't just explain it to you in a driveway where, not in a driveway, in a dry way where you're like, okay, like I get the concept and the science, cool. Like, he explains it in a way where you feel like you really want to understand and you really want to do the thing that he says. And I think that's definitely like an art form and a skill of teaching.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I think that was a pretty good way to put it because every time I learn from Jay, I just wait to be like, what else are you gonna say? It's like not to make not in a weird way, but I'm like, yes, Jay, talk dog to me in my ear.
We can be the J fan club. I'm down.
As it's like I already been choked out by Jay once. I bought him dinner, so we're at like we already had our first date basis, so it's fine.
No, I mean you watch the guy with enough dogs and like you will cry. Like first time first time he ever met my dog bit him in the face. And I've been around a bunch of trainers before who have had dogs like aggress at them or like bite them or like whatever. And like watching his response to that, like I like cried the whole way home. Cause it's very like he's not scared, but he's not a dick. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like it wasn't it wasn't, hey, like, how fucking dare you do this to me, dog? And it wasn't like, oh God, like she's gonna get me. It was like, I see we have a problem. Like, I'm sorry you feel this way, that you have to do this. And like, let's work this shit out. Like, what do you need? And I think like that level of compassion for a dog that's aggressing at you is pretty rare.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it feels. It's like how it's definitely like it says a lot, and it makes you it's like wow, like that's really cool. It's like like thinking about it, it's almost like you have the bad you deal with bad managers that like be very confrontational to an aggressive client or something. Meanwhile, you have this really nice managers like, okay, what's going on? Let's see. Like, I'm sorry you feel this way. How can I help you? You know.
Yeah, like I think like especially I don't know your background, but like for me and for like a lot of the people I train with, like we've trained with like pretty heavy-handed shitty people in the past and like watched like pretty horrific shit go down with dogs who are in that situation. And I think
Mhm.
like having that in the back of your head, like it makes you like a little scared to bring your like bitey dog around the professional.
Mhm.
Um, Obviously, you don't want the dog to bite them because you don't want the dog to hurt them or to bite them at all. But like the other side of it is like you don't want your dog to be treated like shit.
Yep.
Um, Especially if you've like put them in situations like the dog I'm talking about. Like I got her when I like didn't know jack shit, and like the person who trained her was like fucking terrible to her. Like he's the reason that she bit him in the face because she was like, "Oh, you're gonna be like that too. Like fuck you, I'm gonna get you first." And I think like having that in the back of my head and then like seeing a completely different approach to that, like, yeah, I cried the whole way home. It was very emotional.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. No,
Sorry,
you
go ahead.
keep going. I have. I mean, yeah, it's like we have all these training is so it's like so extreme. It's like you have like this side, you have another side. It's like and it's like I like finding that
Mm-hmm.
happy middle ground. Where it's like because the thing is like if you're I was talking about this in my other chat like with my friend Heather. It's like it's either it's a lot of you get one side that's very like reward or like manage like oh they shouldn't do this so it doesn't increase the likelihood or like you have the other side that's like yanking crank and
Mm-hmm.
very like very like oh I'm gonna get you before you get me and there's never like
Yep.
the middle ground where it's like you can address it in a way without like fucking it up
Yeah.
fucking it up good or bad, it's like it's definitely one of those things where like I haven't been around like a lot of like very hard trainers, but like I've seen stories, I've heard, or like I'll see like a video or two, but for me is like to be able to understand it, it's like okay, that makes sense, which is like that's I'm glad that you're sharing this story with us because it's good, it's good insight.
I think it's also like we get so like bogged down by this like reward or punishment thing. Like you're like this like robot that I'm gonna program, and then if I do a few pluses, you're gonna do more of this behavior, and a few punishments here, and you like do less of this behavior, and like I think especially as trainers, we get very like fixated on this like manipulation of behavior, and I think it's special when you see someone treat your dog as just like a fellow like social being
Mhm.
versus like this computer for them to program. Like I'm going to interact with you on a social level, like I'm going to model the type of behavior I want you to see from me, like I'm going to try to figure out how you feel about the situation, I'm going to figure out like what you think is going to happen to you, like I'm going to try to address you like not to anthropomorphize, I can never say that word, not to like anthropomorphize, but like almost like okay, who are you as a person, like to the dog. Obviously it's not a fucking person, like they don't have the same cognitive ability, but like they have the same emotions, and like they are smart, like they're a lot smarter than we give them credit for. And so I think just trainer like seeing a trainer who's gonna approach them in that way versus is just like what can I do with you, like what can I make you do for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it was for me at first. It was like your dog has to do that. Your dog has to do this, or your dog has to be like calm, submissive for the most part. But like as I expanded my knowledge, like the more I go into this industry, is like the less I know. But like when I start talking to people that have that same thing, that's like you have to do it, or like you know, or just certain things, I already go like like that's not my thing. I'd rather like I don't I want to deal with it in like a more of a social aspect than actual just like do as I say, pa pa pa, because there's a especially there's like so many ways to reach Rome. It's like a lot of people think is like convenient, like it's a lot more easier to just suppress, punish kind of thing. But then for me, I'm just like it's like I prefer to work with my dogs and work with like social, like work on that social aspect where you're addressing it
Right. And
in
like when
that.
you think about like the like social relationship, even if you think about like with a partner or with a friend or whatever, like that doesn't mean there's never you have to and there's never you can't do that. Cause like
Hmm.
I can tell you like I have very healthy boundaries with like the people I'm close with. And that's why we have good relationships. Like there are definitely like lines that I wouldn't be cool with the people around me crossing. And like that's part of being healthy with people and also being healthy with dogs, being like actually like you cannot bite people in the face because you're going to get euthanized if you keep doing that. So not like knock it off, not because I hate you but because I love you and I would really like for you to live to old age, so please stop fucking doing that. Or like, hey, like I'm going to recall you and you have to come over here cuz that's like an aggressive dog over there that you're trying to approach, and like you have to get the fuck over here because
Hmm.
I need you to be safe. But
Hmm.
I think there's a difference to that happening within that context versus just, okay, like you're my monkey, what can I make you do?
Yeah, yeah, like doing that, like being able like instead of just immediately just like punish, like God, it's such a black and white thing. But it's like, but it's like I know what it's definitely a big difference because like being like monkey, like do everything here and then pa 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 and
Mhm.
like do as I say. Whereas like right now it's like okay, there's a reason why I need you to do there's like a reason I may or may not have to do like a little bit of like a correction or like a little thing where it's like, hey, you need to get back over here, or like, hey, like don't do that because we really want you to be alive because I love you,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Um, yeah, it's such good points where like, especially there's some dogs that just are bad at making decisions on their own.
Mhm. Yeah.
That it's like we have to
Some
help
dogs
them.
need to be taught.
Yeah, some dogs need to be taught. Okay, this is what you need to do when this happens, instead of like, you know, because I'll tell my clients all the time. I'm like, yeah, there's some dog there. Sometimes I'll let my dogs make their decision, but in some situations, I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm like, you're terrible at making decisions in this case. I'm gonna have you come back here for me for like a few
Yep.
minutes, and then when we get by the trigger or whatever, okay, now go for it.
Yep.
So but good points, good points. So, but going back to like the fulfillment part of it, like right now, like once we find out like that biological fulfillment, or like once we find like that game or that activity that the dog enjoys, um you like after that you feel like training after that, whether it's like working with aggression or even just like working with certain stuff, like that makes it a lot easier for them, right?
Mhm.
Because like now you provided what they needed. Now it's like easier to implement like um the rules, and
Mhm.
easier to implement like
Right.
the training technique that we can apply at that dog at the time, because now it's like we're not fighting the dog. Now it's like we satisfy the dog. Now we can start teaching like, okay, like what not to do.
Yep.
Like in the case where, like, one example I was curious about, like when you said your lab was over exuberant with other dogs, like it might be a mouthful or it might be a long story on how you
Uh-huh.
got there, but I'm curious on like how you were able to like implement that to help with the social thing with dogs. Like how did the biological fulfillment, or like
Mhm.
how
So
was that able to help create that?
so I think like you made a really good point that like once we fulfill the need, then it's a lot easier to work with them. I think also if we work with them within that context, it makes it a lot easier to get in their head, I guess, to like
Mhm.
make yourself relevant because like you have good ideas. Um so I mean, my lab is also he's special. Um I'm always like, yeah, my lab is like way harder than my aggressive Aussie. Because the dog has the pain tolerance of like a game bred pit bull. So like putting a prong on him, putting an e-collar on him, like he doesn't give a fuck. Like
Mhm.
his neck will be twitching, he doesn't give a shit. He's been sprayed in the eyeballs with lemon juice, doesn't care. Keeps doing whatever he's doing. So like just trying to go up in intensity and pain with him, like he doesn't give a fuck. And the other part of it is he has like pretty bad arousal issues where he used to get to a certain point where like I don't think he even really had control over himself and he couldn't come down, he couldn't do anything. And you look at him and you're like, oh, that's just a pent up drivey dog, but like it's not he doesn't want a specific thing. He's not like focused, he's just bouncing around on adrenaline. So just keep that in mind throughout this story. So the first place I really started teaching him that is with my Aussie, because my Aussie has a pretty long bite history with dogs. And I brought this, bundle of joy into her home, and she was like, "What the fuck is this? What did you do to me?" Um, and I was like, "Let him sort it out, see what happens." And she would correct him, and he would go, "Oh, this is great. She paid attention to me. This is way better than when she was ignoring me." Until she started biting the shit out of him, and that was not great for anybody. So that this is going to be like the J Jack fan club. So that was actually one of the first places where I started learning about J stuff, was figuring out a way to get these dogs to live together without putting holes in each other.
Mhm.
Um, and that was also where his social skills started, because I was like, well, clearly, just letting them work it out is not going so great, because she's biting him and he doesn't give a fuck because he has the pain tolerance of a pit bull. So, um, one of the things we started implementing is a lot of inevitability. So I'm not going to just keep going up on the e-collar while your neck is twitching and you don't give a fuck. Like, you're on a leash, and when I say enough, I'm going to use the leash to physically remove you, step on your leash, and we're going to sit here until you accept the picture of enough. So, like, I'm not going to hammer you, but you can keep trying to lunge at the leash. It's not going to go anywhere. You're not going to get
Mhm.
until you want it. So, like, implementing windows for play. So, like, I see her getting annoyed and going, enough, like, you need to leave her alone. Also, what I started doing is I started teaching him about her body language, by teaching her about safe zones. So like in my house, if she goes on a place bed, on a dog bed, in her crate, in a pen, like on the couch next to me, there's our safe zones, meaning if he tries to harass her or anybody tries to harass her, like I will repel. And I don't have to fight him to do that. Like I don't have to like do anything crazy to him. I literally just block. And for him, the biggest punishment is that the game stopped because he really wants to keep playing with her.
Mhm.
And so he started picking up on the body language she was doing before she would go to a safe zone and need space. And so he started down regulating his own arousal when he would see that, because he would go, fuck, like if I keep being really intense with her, she's going to leave. And that sucks way worse than getting corrected, because I would love to get corrected because she makes contact with me. Um, he's not the brightest bulb. Um, yeah, we love him for who he is. But yeah, so he started going, okay, but if I tone it down a little bit, then this dog is going to keep playing with me. Okay, got it. So that was kind of the first place. The second place was like, first we would like go on all these hikes with friends, and I started teaching him about safe zones with their dogs too. So like if their dogs go like recall to them or go between their legs, then he needs to leave them alone. And so he started predicting what causes that, which is him being fucking obnoxious. And then he was like, okay, I should regulate it. And then obviously, like, I also board dogs. So that was really helpful. And he learned a very strong back off cue. So like if this dog is on a leash with me and you're in my yard and I tell you to back off, you need to back off, or I will like physically block you. And so he just started like just like pattern recognition like any other dog training. He goes, "Okay, when this dog looks like that, they go between her legs and then she makes me fuck off and I don't want to fuck off. So how do I prevent that?" And so he learned that. He learned breaks. I mean, obviously, like, this was not all done force free. It's not like he never made a mistake and we're all perfect. And so, if he doesn't back off, if he does try to like mount the dog, if he won't leave them alone after I told him to, like, there's a punishment event. But like the punishment for him, like, I could hit him with a bag of rocks. He doesn't give a fuck. He cares if I look disappointed in him. So like he's physically a very hard dog, but emotionally he will crumble. And so if I legitimately look like I really didn't like what he did, and I just super quietly just go like, why would you do that to me? I thought we were friends. How could you do this? He will crumble and he's like, "Oh God, okay, never again." So like that was definitely part of it. Part of it is just like being like, "Okay, you've done the thing that you're not allowed to do, like humping this dog, and so we're going to remove you and you're going to get put in the box for a little bit because you can't sit with us if you're not going to follow the social rules." So that is kind of the big picture. All of that, with the side note of he's getting his needs met in other ways.
Mm-hmm.
We're playing, we're training, we're having fun, we're hiking off leash. Like his whole life isn't just solving the problem, which I think I see a lot happening where like it's like, okay, you have a trigger, you have a problem. We do this every day now. We have to fix you. You're broken. And then it becomes this massive fight. Like, no, like you have a great life. We're going to do all these other things where we don't have any conflict. And then within this area where we do have conflict, like this is what we're going to do to deal with it.
Yeah, that's really good, and I think like it's good for people to hear too, because like you're advocating for your one dog, your Aussie, but you're also teaching boundaries with with the lab, because it's like you have one spectrum. You have the Aussie that's like, no thanks, so like get away from me. But then you have the lab that's like, I love you so much. Oh, bite my face. I told you. And it's like I love labs and all that. I love the Aussie, like they're so smart. But I'm just like with the labs, I'm like, why can't you take the hint? I'm like, it's like, dog, like you're so nice, but
I'm supposed
goddamn,
to
no
be
wonder
nice.
no wonder they don't like you. You just don't get the hint. I'm like,
Yeah.
buddy.
Yeah, he's really something, this guy. But he has taught me a lot, especially about patience.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think sometimes working with a dog like that who like just doesn't stop and like doesn't give a fuck, like can be very frustrating. And I think like I definitely like would get frustrated with him when he was like a lot younger. Like it didn't do anything wild, but like I said, like if my face looks like I don't like him or like I don't like what he's doing, like that like will fucking break his heart. So
Mm-hmm.
I looked like that a lot more of the time back then, and like it caused a lot of like serious problems with him. So like he has taught me a lot about like patience and also just like controlling my own emotions when I'm working with a dog, and like having empathy for the fact that like I brought this dog into my home, like he didn't ask for this, like he didn't ask to be my dog. Um and just like kind of realizing like this dog doesn't owe me anything. Like he literally has no agency. Like he doesn't have a choice to be my dog. He doesn't have a choice to be someone else's dog. Like he has no control over me. Like I have control in this situation. Like I'm the grown up with the opposable thumb. So like just I think just like having him and living with him and training him has really, I guess, like shaped my perspective in that way of, yeah, just realizing he doesn't owe me anything. Like I'm the one who owes him something for bringing him into my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you bring out a lot of good points where, like, I mean, we bring them into our house. We bring them into our house, our lifestyle. So, it's like they have to tolerate us. And that's big. Yeah. So, oh my God. Like, I really like that. Apparently, I can't think of the words to describe how that how we talk, but like, right, like you have a dog like that you could literally yank and crank or like throw a bag of rocks, and the dog's like, I don't care. But
Yeah.
then when you approach it and like how you did it, right? You did it based on how the dog thought and how the dog processed the situation, and you learn how to use that with the dog. So it's like just being able to learn how to work with your dog. What the like interpret what does your dog deem like as a punisher, but not like traumatizing,
Yes.
way. It's
What's
like
effective but not abusive.
what's effective, what's not abusive. So
Yeah.
I think that's such a good point. Give me one sec. I'm like typing out something. Val, if you want to send me like through the private chat like a link to like your website or anything you want to like
Sure.
put out, because like we'll wrap up in a few minutes, and then I'll do we can do your plugins or whatever. So perfect. But yeah, no, that was awesome. I think just chats like this is like perfect for the like pet owners to hear two dog trainers talk about it, but also trainers themselves. They definitely can learn.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you for having me and for, talking. It's been like really, really interesting. It's cool. It's cool to talk to another trainer that thinks similarly.
oh yeah, for sure. Like you know, given how like I chat, I'll talk with different dog trainers from different aspects of training and different point of view, and it's like nice where it's like you can get that point of view, you can understand where people are going with it, and
Mhm.
like especially with like you and Jay, like you guys really bring up great points, and talking about this makes me stoked for Utah. Like the fact we're leaving in a few days, I'm so excited for that. I am still gonna be like slightly intimidated when the SR test actually happens. I know, Nova. You're looking at me right now. You're hungry and you want to work. You want to do some work. I know. So
I have a panic attack like literally anytime I run my dogs. Like my one dog is like SR2, my other dog has like leg 1 SR3, and like I go into the ring and I'm like, cool, like we're all going to die. So, yeah, no. It
uh,
doesn't go away.
for sure. But anyway, like for people that want to reach out to you or talk to you, how do you want them to reach you?
So my website is chromatic-canine.com if you want to book a session. I'm also on Instagram as Chromatic Canine. If you just want to follow me and my personal dogs, my account is Puppies Want Jazz. Um, little innuendo to my past life when I was a musician. Good times. Um, yeah, you can find me on Facebook also at Chromatic Canine. If you're local and you want to check out our GRC club, look us up on Facebook. We're Technicolor GRC. Join our Facebook group. Um, yeah, we meet in the Boston area. So yeah, reach out.
Per- Perfect. So Val, thank you again for taking the time to talk. This was really good for just really educational for everyone and for me. And so everyone on Facebook, we're gonna wrap up. We're gonna stop the live and wrap up. But hope you guys really enjoyed this. And if you guys have questions or anything, feel free to comment, or you can hit us up on Facebook if you're not a creeper or stalker. That's fine. But hope everyone has a great Saturday, and we'll talk to you guys later.